A trip to Blackpool. Everybody at his out, or at least reckons to be so much, is always either just setting off or just coming back, for it's suppose. There's no difference suits me as well to see a lot of ship trippers that's just come for a day. They do mean to enjoy their sins. You can see that as soon as the train claps them down. Away they steer to have a look at water. There's father comes first with youngest child in his arms, and then one or two, rather bigger, pulling at his quiet laps. Just beyond his old lass, puffing and blowing like a steam engine, a face as red as a rising sun, and a basket on her arm, very near big enough for a oyster hooker. At side on her walks out his lass, and ain't she doing it grand for all she knows. Look what fine ribbons she has flying down her back, and a brass ring on her finger, very near big enough for a oyster hooker. At side on her walks out his lass. Oh, I'm wrong. I can see her, she tosses her head first to one side and then to the other, that she defies all the yaw or anybody else to tell that she's not a calico waver when she's a to 'em. They get a sort of water at last. What a whopper, says one of the lads as a wave comes rolling over. Aye, but that's a Greta, says another. Then father and mother puts little uns all in a row and tells them to have a look at Sia. You must see it, the old lass isn't very comfortable, for she keeps peeping in a basket, and at last she says, Jua, I believe somebody's had the poetic basket. Pot apple pasties, brussin', and pot with mustard in is broken all to bits. Near it, says I, that soul, it's no a way for being mixed a bit. It's all to go the same way one. As soon as ever out dates mentioned, children's hungry in a minute. And even lasses been parading about and couldn't fashion to stand aside of her brothers and sisters, draws a bit nearer the mother's elbow, and down the sit like thawed in and her chickens. And don't they put it out at seat? It means no, they've mustard and pickled onions, as getting on to apple pasty, and potted meat and preserved tarts squeezed all into one. They're no nastiness. Then they have a sale. He won at boats. So in they get, and bagging with chap for a right good air. Chap pulls his watch out, and makes sure at time afore the start, and away they go. And like a bird, isn't it grand, says first one and then another. But the old last chap pulls his watch out, and as cat to find them, not been 15 minutes. Then thought his lass lanes of it aside, and after coughing a time or two, she begins to feed fish. Then little uns come to lick the head of the mother's knees, and she tells them, oh, you can't be bothered. Then she takes a look of her edge, and she's determined to stand it out. So he shuts his eyes and screws up his mouth, while it's hardly as big as a threepenny bit. Then out comes his watch again, and he sighs to find there've never been one over the time. Chappie boat sees how matters stand, so he brings them back as fast as he can. Out they get, and brass is paid without a word. But the old lass shakes her head, and she says, never no more, a dear do, 6pence apiece, and all apple pasties wasted. Electric shock. I've had a right out shock today. Aunt Matt back at door. I felt too sick to pick it up, so I left it lig there on the floor. I knew I'd have to open it afore I went to bed, but I walked around it most of the day, and I wondered what it said. It was one of them buff envelopes with a little window oil. I knew inside it were meant for brass to pay, and I knew it wasn't for coil. I knew it wasn't for nobody else, because as name were plain to see, peeping through that window oil, it were meant for him and me. At last I picked up courage and slammed it up off the floor. But then me got my leg gave way, and I banged me head on the door. I put a wet dishcloth on me head, and I made a cup of tea. Then I put my leg up on a chair, but oh, how it pained me. After I come round a bit, I felt better in a way, but when I read that letter, I nearly passed away. In it there were numbers, and they were all added up at the end. It said we owed £100. Why, they must be round bend. I thought I'll build the glasses and have a closer look, but it was £150 we owed. By gum, my hands they shook. And when my husband come and saw me leg on the chair, he wondered what were up. I told him it's that letter over there. He picked it up and read it, and then he did something I've never known him do afore. He said a nasty swear word, and then he fainted flat on the floor. After he come round, we both agreed we'd have him up at court for causing all these injuries and shock, and for charging money at the house. The Dean's brother, a little lad but thinly clad, all day had roamed the street. With stifling groans and aching bones, he begged for bread to eat. The wind blew shrill from o'er the hill, and shook his scanty rags, whilst cold and sleet benumbed his feet, as plodding o'er the flags. The night drew on with thickening gloom. He hailed each passer-by for help to save, but naught they gave. Then he sat him down to cry. It was a noble portico, 'neath which the beggar stepped, but none would guess one in distress. There, shivering, sat and wept. But soon the door was open thrown. The Dean, a goodly man who lived within, had heard the noise, then came the cause to span. What want you here, you little boy, on such a bitter night? Run home at once, you little dunce, or you'll be frozen quite. The boy looked at his cheerful face, then hid his own in dread. I meant no harm. The place was warm, and I am begging bread. And if you can a morsel spare, I'll thank you oh so much, for all day long I've begged and sung, and never had a touch. Step in, then, said the kindly man, and stand here in the hall. You shall have bread, poor starving child, I promise you, you shall. And off he went, and soon returned with a thin, tempting slice. Little Jimmy clapped his hands and cried, "Oh, sir, that is nice. What is your name? Please tell me that." "My name is Jimmy Poole." "And do you always beg all day instead of going to school? And can you read and can you write?" "No, sir, I have to beg all day. At night I go to bed. My mother lays me on the floor upon a little rug, and I ne'er think of nothing more when I'm so warm and snug. Sometimes I wake, and when I do, unless it's almost day, she's always there, sat on a chair, working the night away. It isn't much that she can make. Sometimes I think she'd die, but for her little Jimmy's sake, there's only her and I. And do you ever pray, my boy?" "No, sir, I've never heard a praying word since my poor daddy died. Then let me teach you, little one. Come now, let me see. I think you'll manage if you try. Just say it after me. Our Father, right, thou art in heaven. Go on. And the boy repeated every word until the prayer was done. Then turning up his hazel eyes, which questioning light shone through, that prayer sounds very nice. Is he your father too? Yes, he is mine as well as yours, and Lord of all. See, well, if that be so, my brother you must be. Yes, we are brethren, every one, all equal in his sight. Well, I will try to think so, sir, but I can't believe it quite. It seems so strange that you should be akin to such as me, for you are rich and great and grand, and I'm so poor, you see. But it is true, my little lad, and if to him you pray, he'll make your little heart feel glad, he'll turn you not away. Well, if that be so, I learn to pray. But if you are my brother, just give me one thicker slice. And if he's father of us all, now as I'm going home, perhaps you'll spare your widowed sister some. The Dean's face wore a puzzled look, and then a look of joy, then said, "'Tis you the teacher are, I am the scholar boy." That night the widow's eyes were wet, but they were tears of joy when she beheld the load of things brought by a little boy. And Jimmy danced upon the flags and cried, "There's few I've seen and ever thought that in these rags stands brother to a dean." Archibald imagined himself quite a nut, all attired in a suit of the latest cut, all up to date, his neckwear and tie, even his shoes were of the latest style. He, having occasion to travel one day, made a great impression, so dashing and gay. He entered the train, and in the corner he sat. He was faced by a navvy, burly and fat, who placed on the rack, just above Archie's head, an hamper, and nothing more was said. They had just travelled a while when Archie felt sure something had dropped down his back. He felt sure, but now a fair trickle ran down Archie's back from that blinking old hamper on the rack. He turned to the navvy and imaginedly said, "Your dinner is leaking." The navvy looked up and replied, "That isn't my dinner, it's nobbut a pope."
You ready? Well, hello everybody, it's Connie, and as you know, this is going out onto our Huddersfield tapes for the Handicapped Association, and the recitations you've just heard are by a lady, Mrs. Dickinson, who lives in our village. She's a fantastic lady. I believe she's 87. Is that right, Mrs. Dickinson?
Yes, that's right.
87, and believe it or not, that she can say all these without looking at the paper. And I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I've just heard one or two, and I know she's got about 60 of them here. And I just want to ask her one or two questions. How long have you lived in this village, Mr. Dickinson?
40 years.
40 years?
Yeah.
In Lower Cumberland?
Yes.
And how long have you lived in this house?
20.
20 years in this house, yes. And when is it, how long is it since you were able not to get about the same?
Oh, about 4 years since.
About 4 years since, yeah.
When I could go on bus. I can't go on bus now.
Now, she has a bad leg at the moment because she had a burn, I think, last week, didn't you?
Yes.
Burnt her leg. But apart from that, she's the liveliest old lady I've seen for some time. In fact, she'll probably tire me out. Anyway, we're going to have some more recitations from her tonight. And what's more, we've asked her to come on the guest night of the anniversary one that we have in the village every year for the church. And the first time we heard her actually was 2 years ago when we went. I think it was 2 years ago. We went for about the second time to this event in the village since we'd become acquainted with all the things that were going on. And we didn't know her then. But we heard this lady get up on the stage and the recitations were fantastic and in this lovely Yorkshire dialect. Now, I'm a big lover of dialects, any kind of dialects. I think they are things that should never die. They should always be kept up, you know. The different ones all over the country. And there's Yorkshire and Lancashire and Welsh and Cornish, they all have something to offer, don't they, in their own way. And I must admit that I can never understand half of them anyway, but when I hear them, they're lovely. But I can understand a lot of the Yorkshire dialect, but to hear somebody say it, I can't say it like it. So on behalf of all of you, I'm saying thank you to Mrs. Dickinson, and we're going to have a bit more now, and I hope that we're going to hear a lot more of her in the future. Thank you.
Making a Yorkshire pudding. Bob, for heaven's sake, take the great clumsy feet out of for oil, for I'm feared they aren't stoled a squeezing past thee. Here I am trying to get dinner ready, it time for the going to the work, and there they are, stuck with the feet it bars, burning the boat soils off. I can get no other one road than t'other. If they'd out about this hen, they'd be mixing Yorkshire pudding for me, instead of alicking the time away, as they does. Just see here, put that paper down out of the hands. What's up, lass? Just to say that's bent pudding? No, I didn't, you great fattyhead. I said if they'd out about they'd be mixing pudding for me. All right, lass, I can do. Let's see. I want a basin, some flour, a egg, and a pinch of salt. I get no but flour, lass. Can't you tell us where flour is? Ah, it's in a big steel jar on store in its cellar. But don't go and get it out of the biggest jar of all, because it isn't flour, it's plaster of Paris. Bob was still scanning his paper while Nanny were giving him directions which jar flour were in, and he just getting to where it said housing problem. So he went down into the cellar, mumbling, housing problem, every step he took, so as he wouldn't forget where he'd left off reading. In about a minute he were back again, still repeating his catch-line, housing problem, just above his breath. Well, what about the housing problem, said Nanny, as rapid as could be. The housing problem without thee to make that there pudding? No, lass, it weren't. I were nobbut trying to think on where I'd left off Prime Minister's speech. Well, thou wants to leave Prime Minister alone while thou's finished with pudding. All right, lass, I can do. In about a minute, pudding were mixed and Bob sat down to read again. Is there aught else thou wants doing afore I get started? Ah, there's lots of little things thou would be doing, but thou might as well get finished with the precious speech thou talks about. Bob had barely finished reading when Nanny told him to drop to his dinner. All right, lass, I'm just a trim for it. By goo, there's a funny queer smell about this here gravy. Thee get the dinner, gravy's all right, and let the mate stop the mouth. I'm trying to do, but I can't get me mouth through pudding. What's up with? Ah, what is it, wait? I've just gone and broken one of my false teeth with blooming stuff. I'll bet out that mate put in a place for Paris, which you had it to get player out on. Big un, as thou telled me. But I tell thee not to go to the biggest jar of all, because it won't player, it will place for Paris. Well, lass, I'm very sorry. Sorry be hanged. Sorry we ain't paid dentist to put this here tooth back in my head. This all comes of the blessed speeches. To hummer with, and to hummer with thee and all, Bob. What? With thee at dinner? Ah, thou mun chout the him problem all afternoon, and then they'll happen be ready for the drinking. The milkman. In Brighouse there lived a milkman, they say, a somewhat cantankerous chap in his way. If you said it was warm, he'd never agree, but always contrary, that milkman would be. As early one morning he went on his round, and at one of the houses a locked door he found. It wasn't the first time it had happened before, and I'm sorry to say the milkman, he swore. He gave the old door a rattle and a shake. Aroused by the noise, the old woman did wake. She thought it was the newsboy, or so runs the tale, who came every morning and brought her the mail. She called out at once in a voice loud and clear, "Throw it under door bottom." The milkman said, "I will." He raised no objection this time, for a wonder. He just measured a pint and threw it under. Altering clock. Dewar Ellis and Wharf, one cold April neat, sat close up to fire, twice in the feet. 'Twere a very cold neat to be spring at year, and crops ha' been to be backed off here. Joe stared at red cinders, then put at a cob, then pulled his clay pipe very gently on thob. He looked up at clock. "Oh, Mary," he said, "we mun alter us clocks afore we go to bed. Summer time starts it morning, so what neighbours say, and lest we forget it, I'll do it straight away. So I'll wind it up and set fingers right. It's just struck 7, so I'll put it to 8. "Nay, they're great wacky," said Mary's wife. "That's wrong road about. Eh, dear bless me law. It wants putting back a near other way. Well, they've thrashed and they argued thing here, till which way to put it they both worried at. At finish, quite mixed up, they gave up in despair. Whether right or wrong, Joe said, "I don't care." Eh, Joe, there's no telling whatever they'll do if they hadn't me to pull thee through. Joe kept wheel his temper. "Well, Mary," he said, "just leave clock till morning. I'm going to answer." But Mary never answered, and went on with the knitting, determined they wouldn't fall out our clock. "Mary," called Joe, "are to come into bed? When I've altered clock to me larking," she said. "There's no need to bother. I've done that all right, and won it up too, as you'll see bit wait. I know that it's altered, but they made such a crack. Well, I'm blessed if I know whether forward or back. They mak the new laws, does these government men. I wonder if they alter the clocks the same. They got up at morning and naught were a stir. If it's wrong, I'll blame thee, Joe," and Joe said he'd blame her. As they went to church, they thought they were sewing. They knew they'd blundered when nobody were going. "Eh, they're great, Sammy," said Mary, with a groan. "Thou should have done what I wanted and left clock alone."
How long have you been doing these recitations, Mrs. Dickinson?
Well, I started when I was a child. I should be about 10 years old. But when I got married, I gave up then for years. And then after I started and joined a Derby and Joan club, I got in with a concert party. And we went all over, all round Huddersfield to old folks, Derby and Jones. And then we gave up because we got too old to go to practices and that. So anyhow, I joined in with another concert party where they were all little children and they were lovely, about 9 years old, and I really enjoyed going, and I was the elocutionist, and then they did all the singing and that, and it was really beautiful. But we've had to stop that. We've had to give that up for poor, funny occasions,
Where did you get all your recitations from over the years?
I remember getting one, Yorkshire Lyrics. I had that for my prize when I was right young, about 16 or something like that. Yeah. I was very young when I had. If you saw it now, it's every bit in rags. It's all in bits. There is neither back nor anything on it. It's been used that much, and I tell you, it's. I still find some out of it, I still keep picking some out of it.
They've come out of some books, and have you written some out?
And then I have a lot of old clock almanacs they're 50 years old, some of them. They're very old, and they're really good. They're good for readings,
Yeah.
They're very
Are there
good.
any modern ones? Are there any nowadays that you would be able to get?
I had one bought for a birthday present. Ben Briggs was the author.
Oh, yes, one of the later ones.
Yes, that's one of the later ones. So she thought I should like a book of recitations,
And you've obviously enjoyed doing these recitations, haven't you?
Oh, yes, I enjoy going.
Because you're doing them for so many years.
That's right, yes. I've been doing them for about 14 years this last time.
Yeah, but that was, before that you've been doing it for a great number of years.
Oh, yes, I did it for a long, long time. Then,
Yes, I know you're well noted in the village for it. I don't, and before I knew you, of course, you were doing it up and down.
They all know me at the chapel, Commonwealth Chapel.
Yes.
I'm well known there from years and years and years back.
Yes.
I've never refused going.
No.
It doesn't matter what, I've always gone,
Yeah, I see. Yes, thank you.
Peevish Paul. I've heard a merry mischief, and I've read a nattering Nan. I've known a grumbling Judy, and a cross-grained Sarah Ann. But with all the faults and failings, they still seem very tame compared to one. But I'll tell you on, I doesn't tell her name. I'll simply call her Peevish Paul. That name suits her to a dot. But if you thought 'twere meant for her, you should bet I should get it hot. She's fat and fair and potty, and her smile's the sweetest spice. Her voice is low and tender when she's trying to act nice. She's lots of winning ways that fit her like a glove. Folks say she's always pleasant, just a woman they could love. But if they never had her, they found out for a start. It isn't how it's sweet and small as getting kindest heart. Ere even a poor husband stands it, that licks dull. I should have been hung if I'd have been cursed with such a wife as Paul. A childer 3 sneak in and out as if they were expected to offer to Tom a clout at side of head. If they go out too late, she storms about a lonely state. And if they stop in, she declares that all is in a gate. And if they should start to sing, a talk, she tells them, "Hadjadeen." And if they all sit mum, she says it really is a sin to think I should to sit and mope all time that they're away. And when they're home, they sit like stoops without a word to say. If feeling cold, they'll creep near far. They'll very soon get fluid. Then she'll open door and windows, declaring she's fair smothered. When it's so sweltering and hot, they can hardly get their breath. She'll pile on coils and shut all close, and swear she'll starve to death. Whatever's wrong when they're about is their fault for being there, and if out's wrong when they're away, it's because they weren't near. To keep 'em all in misery, 'tis the only joy she knows, and then she blames her husband for being always making rows. Poor chap, he'll live for long. A cast-on man would have no chance with such a woman's tongue, and then she'll fret and sigh and try his virtues to extol. But more and more sincere will be that chap at next wet spall. Managing a man. I'm fair sick of hearing so many women complaining about having bad husbands, said Mally Crumpsall. It's very oft their own fault. Men are all right if they're managed right. Of course, if a chap has a wife and 5 or 6 children to provide for, and not but a small wage to do it on, if he is of a saving sort, it's quite natural he may seem sometimes rather mean with his brass. There's generally a bit of unpleasantness when there's a lot of new clothes called for. A husband doesn't pay the same attention to these matters as a wife does. However, they agree on other matters. They're almost sure to differ about clothes, but leave it to wife and she'll manage it. A chap doesn't like to be pestered with first one child and then another, saying, "Daddy, buy me this," and "Daddy, buy me that." He gets out of patience, where if it's left at wife, she'll know at proper time and when to tackle him. First intimation generally comes of a Sunday, just about chapel time. When husband and wife are getting ready for starting off, he'll turn round and say, "Nay, lass, hurry up them childer. Thou knows I never like 'em to be late." "They are not going this morning," she'll say, as quiet as if it were a thing he knew all about. "Not going? What aren't they going for? There's nought up with 'em, is there?" "Come on, thou knows very well what's up with 'em, without me telling thee. Thou knowin' so blind as I'd not but believe. He go, but I'm known bound to have them children stopping away through chapel, and me paying rent for a front pew. Don't talk such nonsense. How can they go to chapel when they've nought to go in? I'm sure of shame for 'em for money a week, for they haven't been fit to be seen, and they never are like anybody else's little children. For one half of the time they look as if they belonged to nobody. But then thou never did set store of thy children, at other fathers do of theirs, and I mun never expect it. But that's no reason that I shouldn't look after 'em a bit. At any rate, I'm known bound to have 'em made a laughing stock on, because they aren't fit to be seen. I'll keep 'em at home for ever first. And I'm sure there never were children that were so careful of the clothes as ours is, for I've always trained 'em to it. Well, I've never seen that they held out, and I'm sure they always look as well done as any of the neighbours. I don't believe they takes much notice, and if they do, it's because they takes such a pride of the sin and try to look as if they belong to somebody respectable. But one hat and a frock can't be expected to last them all days of the life, unless they'd like 'em to die young. And I think sometimes it would be a blessing if it pleased God to take 'em, for there's not much worth living for when their own father can't toil 'em a few decent racks to his back. There's our Alec yonder is grown out of that suit, and if he doesn't take it for every day's sewing, he'll never be able to wear it at all. But it rests with thee, and damn 'em please the saying. It matters nought to me if there's a man to let 'em go stark naked. I've done my duty to both thee and them, and he cannot say out, although he doesn't believe it to be true. And when they say to the chapel, and parson gives his text, Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. And she rocks us in backwards and forwards and mutters in a low tone, "Hey dear, I wish mine had been lilies. There'd no one have to be caring at home for want of clothes." And his face growed as red as a ape, for fear that she was bound to tell the whole congregation. And when he saw her and they going home, she says, "Steady there, yon's Jim Sweetill's lass. Now that's a nice jacket she's getting on, isn't it? And he's nobbut to waver, isn't he? And look at yon two lads of Joe Smith's. Yon's all that 34th suit they've had this last 12 months, I believe. But he's proud of his children, is Joe. And look at yon dress that Jabez's daughter's getting on. I never seen that afore. And he knows what it all means. And when Monday comes, if he's sensible, he breaks off a day and tacks them all to Huddersfield to get a new regate. It's all done with want of management. It's want of management that makes so many miserable homes. But I'll say, if a woman doesn't know how to deal with a man, she isn't fit to have one.
Yeah, Sarah Anna took me to see Cedric and Mabel a while back, and we had the bunga and sat down in the front room afore Cedric was showing us his latest gadget, one of them the tape recorders. "And when did to get that, Cedric?" Sarah Anna asked him as he started setting it up. "About a fortnight since," he replied, looking right suited with sin. "Whatever does to use it for?" I asked him. "Entertainment," he answered. "We get a lot of fun out on it, don't we, Mabel?" "Aye," she said. "Just listen to this," he said, plugging it in and turning a couple of knobs. "It's Mabel reciting." We all sat back and waited, and after a while things seemed to come to life. We rush. I recognised Mabel's voice straight off, but I couldn't tell what it was she were reciting. It all sounded double Dutch to me. "Champion," said Sarah Anna, when it were all over. "Aye, it's Mabel to a T," I said. "But what was she talking about?" "It were village blacksmith wanted it," said Sarah Anna. "Oh, that'd account for old Racket," I said. "No, it were Recca Express," said Mabel. "Hast to do know this end, Cedric?" I asked. "Oh, aye," he replied. "He's recorded a song or two," Mabel added. "Let him hear this, Cedric." He switched on again and contraption seemed to explode. "Hey, up, it's broken down," I said. "No, it hasn't," said Mabel. "That were when he were clearing his throat." While she were talking, Cedric's song came on. I'd no more idea nor a flash what it were he was singing, but I know what it sounded like. I'd once heard a chap carry on just the same road when he'd been taken very bad with food poisoning. But Cedric seemed to have copped it well through racket he made. Even when it were all over, he looked round at Sarah Anna as me, as if he were Crusoe. "There," he said, "what do you think to that?" "Very nice," said Sarah Anna. "Wasn't it, Joe Willie?" "I didn't know that I could sing in German," I said. "It wasn't German," Cedric replied. "It were English. Didn't you recognise song?" "Well, it sounded a bit like Farmer's Boy," I said. "It was Simon the Cellarer," he told me. "Of course it was," said Sarah Anna, though she looked every bit as puzzled as I'd been feeling until she were enlightened. "Stop being awkward, Joe Willie. I were bound to say it sounded more like Simon chowing celery, but I thought I'd better keep quiet for a bit." "How about you two having a go?" Cedric suggested. "I don't think I'm informed," I said, but Sarah Hannah were all for having a go. "I'd feel like to see what I sounded like," she said. What about doing yon song that thou were bound to sing at a guilt concert next month? Mabel asked her. Nay, I said, she's sung it every night this week, 2 or 3 times a night on all occasions. I'll sing it with you, said Mabel. I know it. Aye, have a go, Cedric added. He set his stool up on a chair outside the piano, and Mabel and Sarah Anna got ready to perform. Machine switched on, Mabel asked him. Aye, Cedric replied. Off you go. Sarah Anna sat down at piano and played introduction, and it sounded so much shocking. For yon piano Cedric hadn't been tuned since it were bought, and some guys didn't play into bargain. However, they drowned sound at piano as soon as they started singing, though Mabel was that sharp that she fair made me scringe. That should attain very well, Cedric said, as soon as that finished. I hope they haven't bust the machine for the Cedric, I said. Play it back then, and let's see what it sounds like, said Mabel. The boy sat down again while Cedric manked with machine for a minute or two. Now then, he said at last, off we go. And there they did go and all. They just sounded as if they were fretching with a heady-geddy on Slowett Station. Every now and then, as Mabel got a high note, it fair put me at mind of an express train going through. That's never us, is it, said Sarah Anna, looking right capped. It isn't all, said Mabel. That's just how that sounds. It sounds, my voice, as I can never get used to. He had no idea I sounded like that, said Sarah Anna. It how I sound to thee, Joe Willie? Just, I answered. What had I been to do about it? I was wondering if thou'd last night second thoughts about singing at guilt concert, now that she'd heard what she sounded like, but there were no such luck. What am I bound to do? She said. I'm bound to practice a lot more. That's what I'm bound to do. And that was what she did, for a solid fortnight afterwards. Instead of having to listen to her going through a piece once or twice a night, I had to put up with hearing her do it half a dozen times at one sitting. Selections from the Messiah. Ted Buckley were a smart-looking chap, you know, when he'd done his send up a courting to go. He courted a lass that were a little bit soft, and he wasn't much better, for he went middling oft. He went 4 times a week, and sometimes more. He got there a good time, but he never knew when to go. But there came a night when he were rather late. Poor lass didn't know whether he'd getting lost or what. It was Sunday before Christmas, to tell you today. A heavy snow had fallen, and right thick it lay. 9 o'clock struck, but no sign of Ted. Should never expect him if she were right in her head. However, she hadn't long to wait before somebody rattled at garden gate. In a jiffy door opened, and in he walked straight in. She looked as fair as she could, but he'd same old grin. Rough neat, he said, as he sat down on a chair. There's been money a while, she said with a sneer. There's no need to lay it all on to snow. Where has to been calling, I'd like to know. Thou thinks I've been to pub, supping ale, but they'll alter their mind when I tell them me tale. I've been to Methodist Chapel to hearken their choir. They've been giving selections from Handel's Messiah. New parson were there, but he didn't talk long, 'cause he fair wanted to service a song. I can't tell thee all at items just as they went, but I'll tell thee what I thought it really all meant. They sang about some sheep that are getting astray, and as I understood, they all went different ways. I don't know how many there were, nor how much they cost. That doesn't matter. Main thing was they were lost. Then a chap got up and sang be his sin. Whether they were his sheep or not, I'm sure I can't tell. But he sang, every mountain and dale will be made low. I thought they were bound upon them sheep, 'tis whatever they had to do. Then a young lass got up and sang in a right clear voice, they needn't trouble, but gently rejoice. It were a stiff piece, and I'm sure it were hard work, but she sang it as if it were a lark. I asked her a name, as I could hear her again some day. A chap said, she's leading singer, they call her Miss Clay. Then up he jumped, a chap bit on, and he fairly looked cross. I wondered if them that taken to sheep, for them it were lost. He sang, they'd imagined a vain thing, and he were in a rage, and tongue organist banged as if he were in for a wage. All the audience were fair suited. You could see by the faces, when chap had done singing and sat down in his place. Other singers were fair mad at him for being so clever. They got up and sang, it'll rain forever and ever. When I heard that, I got to do it as sharp as I could. I thought I'm be off if there's bound to be a flood. When it finished telling her about Messiah, he says, now then, art satisfied, Sophia? And she says, it must have been grand, and I'll go and act it next time it comes around. Influenza. When I got up one morning, I worked in Influenza. When I got up one morning, I worked in every bone. Me head, it felt rather whammy, it felt the way a stone. That's getting influenza, and so ya Sally says, there's no to put the right, only a day or two i bed. I'll send for me Aunt Maria to help thee. She's had around just lately, and she knows just what to do. Thou knows the Aunt Maria is as hearty as a hare, and he votes she's good, but mad as her. She loves to go a-calling to neighbours round about, tasting chicken legs are out it's to be had. Whatever folk is ailing, and however bad they are, me Aunt Maria's been there, but all is 10 times war. And although there's money 100 that's finished up with Dean, it's never made no difference so for far about I've seen. She come up just after dinner, she aimed to come before, and clapped me on a poultice as big as cupboard door. You talk about your scalding, and folk being burnt to death, that poultice licked them all. Nay, I couldn't get any breath. She took a gallon bottle and shoved it full of boiling water to make me sweet, she said. Then she made a pan of gruel, enough for 20 men. And when I'd had me tantrum, she sucked a lot of sin. Old Bailey getting settled, I'd barely getting settled, and it needed to happen when it more, when cork come out that bottle and sucked all bedding through. I want over tic-tac, I was all locked out of bed, and potched me Aunt Maria such a clout at side of head. I was getting badly scalded in both my legs and feet, and under circumstances, me touch when I want to eat. She yelled me a bit topping and fetched me face a slap. She sammed a shawl and bonnet and trudged down in a flap. She told a score of neighbours that she wouldn't care a flin if I never crossed that threshold, and she's never spoken sin. Afore me Aunt Maria shall come and doctor me next time after influenza, by gum, I'd rather die. It's how nearly it's written it, and just put it right. A sailor's story. A breathless silence reigns in court. Not even the usher's tread is heard, as Judge Delaney puts his black cap on his head. May God have mercy on your soul. The prisoner hears each word, and with a supreme effort he now lets his voice be heard. Oh, Judge, you know not how these men have sworn my life away. I wish you could recall the words you heard the jury say. You term it murder, what I've done, because I took the life in passion of a hardened fiend who wronged my loving wife. Poor Sarah and myself, you see, were brought up side by side. I loved her better than my life. For her I would have died. But years rolled on, I'd been to sea and saved a bit of brass. The next voyage, lass, shall be my last, I told my bonny lass. Before I sailed, I led her to the altar as my bride. Then on the quay we parted. My ship sailed with the tide. Ah, Judge, I saved and never spent a single penny piece. For her alone I toiled and toiled, my savings to increase. At first I'd letters from her, begging her to explain, but not a letter ever came from her again. At last my voyage was over. I landed on the quay, but not a sign of her I loved was there to welcome me. I made my way to Hawthorne, that was her father's farm. The old man cried, "She's gone, she's gone." "But where?" I cried in alarm. "Why, Jones, the squire's son one morning brought a note and said that you were dying, and some lines to her you'd wrote. I saw it all. The hardened fiend had tempted her away. Then I swore a solemn oath that he should rue the day. I went to London day and night. I searched for them in vain, and one night, as I sought shelter in the doorway from the rain, I heard a voice. I knew 'twas hers outside the door. I listened to her prayers. My name was rendered more than once. Then I rushed through the door. Ah, God, can I forget the sight? She lay there on the floor, there in a garret neath the sky, where on a bed of filthy straw my wife was left to die. You term it murder, but 'twas he who murdered my poor wife. God made me the avenger, and I took life for life. That's all I've got to tell the court. You can hang me by the neck, for I am longing to meet Sarah, Judge, on God's glorious quarter deck. Jumble Sale. I'll tell you a rough and tumble tale of our Jane Ann and Jumble Sale, which brought in 12 tin, but knocked her back 10 a sin, a fact which very nearly killed her interest at Women's Guild. She had a champion lot of stuff to sell, and sold it right enough. In fact, she went and queered a pitch, be selling just a bit too much, though planners were to blame and all for letting her have oddments toll. They thought that they'd backed a winner, but lass, were nobbut just a new beginner, as she discovered to a cost, when should to pay for what were lost. Rebecca Fletcher's new spring hat, ooh, that was snapped up in 5 seconds flat, and Kate Shaw's coat went in Newton for $1, and Matilda Bailey's brolly was sold for next to nought, while Guilty a trolley were sewing wheeled in with Tommy Spence were getting it for 18 pence. One cheeky-looking chap looked up and pointed to a loving cup, which President had just put down on the piano. "Oh, for crown," said our Jane Ann, and when it paid, he brought 2 cronies to his aid to lift that silver loving cup and Thomas strung piano up. At finish, and all women folk had gone, women folk were left alone, they totted up the tackings and they reached a record. 12 £10, says Mrs. Backshaw, players that this. "A cup of tea we ain't coming, miss." "We've addled one," said Mrs. Hewitt. "Come on, old lass, I'll hold the to brew it." But they both grew melancholy when they looked in vain for trolley. And pianist young Bessie Brooke, she put on a pained and puzzled look as she asked in a distracted manner, "Whatever's happened to piano?" And when Rebecca Fletcher missed her hats, that caused somehow dears to put their hands upon their ears. But that was nought to what went on when Kate Shaw funny at it a quite a going. She set to work to double then. At last they seemed to cotton on to what Jane Ann had gone and done, and you should have seen her face grow red with what her fellow members said. Her legs gave way, shock almost bowed 'em when they told her what she owed 'em. "Oh, I can't pay that," said poor Jane Ann, "except on never plan." It took her 18 months to pay that £10 off, and we never failed to make her look pale when we mention a jumble sale. If God should go on strike, how good it is that God above has never gone on strike, because he was not treated fair in things he didn't like. He had enough of those on earth, I'm through, so this is what I'll do. I'll give my orders to the sun, cut off the heat supply, and to the moon give no more light, and so run the oceans dry. Then just to make things really tough and put the pressure on, turn off the vital oxygen till every breath is gone. You know he would be justified if fairness was the game, for no one has been more abused or met with disdain than God, and yet he carries on supplying you and me with all the favours of his grace and everything for free. Men say they want a better deal, and so on strike they go. But what a deal we've given God, to whom all things we owe. We don't care who we hurt to gain the things we like, but what a mess things would be if God should go on strike. Slimming. Whenever June comes in, I think of our Matilda and her slimming cure. For it was June when it happened. Going on for 17 stone were our Matilda. "I know what I'll do," she said to Thomas one day. Thomas being her husband, "I'll start reducing. Doctor's wife told me about you've no sleeping pills to take, you've no note to do, no dieting to do, the note. Just one day a week, you've to eat no but oranges for your breakfast, your dinner, and your tea, and your supper. You've to eat 2 dozen on 'em. By gum," says Thomas, "then I'm going to order a box of tooth at Co-op, and then he goes and orders 'em. Get thee up," says Matilda, following Sunday morning. "I'm starting my reducing today, and I might as well stop in bed and do the job right. Fetch me orange juice first." So Thomas goes downstairs and comes back with a quite jugful of orange juice. "I hope it's to the larking," he says. "It's right," says Matilda, as she took a good swig. Now then, she says, when she's come up for breath, fetch me orange pulp. So Thomas trips down again and comes back with a breakfast breakfast on a dinner plate. It went on like this through morning, drinking and dinner, and tea, but before supper. Matilda were feeling none too well. Just then, Doctor's wife passes, and Thomas calls her in. When she saw Matilda, she nearly fainted. Forgetting who she was, she says, what the heck has to been doing? That looks just like orange. I've nearly had all 24, Matilda manages to say. At that minute, Thomas was coming upstairs with another dose. But when he hears her, he stops, and after a minute or two, he said, all 24? What are you talking about? And I've had 24 for every meal, and I've just stopped in second case. Billy Bumble's bargain. Billy Bumble bought a pig, so all neighbours say, and many a mile he had to trot one sweltering summer's day. But Billy didn't care a fig, he said he'd make it pay. He knew it were a bargain, and he cared not who fed nay. He brought it to him to Brookcroft Loin, but what were his surprise to find old neighbours standing out with open mouths and eyes. Said Billy to his son, this pig must be a prize. Then one of the chaps said, Billy, where's the bean? Whatever hast thou brought? That surely isn't crater, I heard him say at that boat. It looks more like a donkey. Just to think it can rot. But Billy cracked his carter's whip and answered him with note. And sure enough it were a pig, if all they say is true. His legs were 5'8" and 9, his height were 4'2". But when it come to pig oil doer, they couldn't get it through, unless it went down on its knees, and that it wouldn't do. Then Billy's mother come to help. Sure, it with a mop, but there it were, and there it seemed determined it'd stop. When all at once it gave a grunt, and finding out that it were licked, it loped clean over top. Billy, she said, I hope that thou aren't bound to sink the mother in disgrace, but if thou bring such things as these, I'm sure it will be case. Nay, mother, never fear, it's one I'm going to feed. I know it's rather long its legs, but that's because it breed. And if it's a trifle long it groins, why, I ain't never read. I know it's not a beauty, but oh, it was shape indeed. Well, Tom'll try, his mother said, and Tom at last did try, for never such a hungry beast were fed in a sty. What's wait at long-legged pig, what neighbours daily cry. I haven't weighed it yet, but I will do by and by. And poor Billy persevered, but all to no avail. He swallowed all nail it could get, and what a swallow fail. But Billy took good care to stand it to the side at rail, but fat, it didn't gain as much as what had grazed its tail. Pack after pack a mile he bought, until he bought 14, but not a bit of difference it could be seen. Next day he brought a double dose and put it into trough. Then he went inside, his mucky clothes to doff. It wasn't long before he came to see how matters stood. He looked at trough, and there it was, 5 simple bits of wood, as clean scraped out as if they'd never held a bit of food. There's lots, said Bill. I do believe that ate me if they could. Next day he brought a butcher, for his patience had been tried, and with a bit of difference thinning off its drew, and stuck it in its side. It must have been a crocodile, bit thickness of its hide. But blood began to flow, and then its long leg race were done. The scalder scraped and hung it up, and when it all was done, folk came to guess what weight it was. And many a bit of fun they had when Bill's mother said it ought to weigh a ton. Billy were walking up and down doing no but fume and fidge. He looked at Pig, then down he sat on nook at window edge. He saw backbone was sticking out, like thin end of a wedge. It looked more like an old blanket stuck over a winter edge. His mother roared and women sighed, but chaps did no but laugh. Poor Billy, he could hardly bide to sit and hear 'em chaff. So up he jumped and off he went, but where, folk never knew. But worst of all, dear Pig had mizzled too. It's often said it did at neat, near Shepley's ruined mill, the ghost of Billy and his pig may be seen running still. Your folk are tempted to go by. Be careful what you do. Don't be persuaded because it's cheap, because if you do, you'll rue. Somebody's mother. The woman was old and grey and bent with the chill of the winter's day. The streets were wet with the sleet and the snow, and the woman's feet were aged and slow. She stood by the crossing and waited long, alone, uncared for, amidst the throng of human beings who passed her by, nor heeded the glance of her anxious eye. Down the street, with laughter and shout, glad in the freedom of school let out, came the boys like a flock of sheep, hailing the snow piled white and deep. Past the woman so old and grey, hastened the children on their way, nor offered a helping hand to her, so meek, so timid, afraid to stir, lest the car wheels should crowd her down on the slippery street. At last came one of the merry group, the gayest laddie of all the troop. He paused beside her and whispered low, "I'll help you across if you wish to go." Her aged hand on his strong young arm she placed, and so, without hurt or harm, he guided her trembling feet along, proud that his own were firm and strong. Then back again to his friends he went, his young heart happy and well content. She's somebody's mother, boys, you know, for all she's aged and poor and slow. And I hope some boy will ever lend a hand to help my mother, you understand, if ever she's poor and old and grey, when her own dear boy is far away. And somebody's mother bowed low her head in her home that night, and the prayer she said was, "God be kind to the noble boy who is somebody's son and pride and joy." First bit of bother. Seth Hartley and Martha had been wed 12 months, and they never had a wrong word. They were very fond of one another, and neither on 'em were disappointed with the bargain. And funny as you may think, it is that they never had naught to fret about. In a lot of cases, novelty of being wed has worn off by that time, and as other yet folks say, monotony has set in. And then in that case, it doesn't take much to cause a bit of bother between husband and wife. But no, like that looked like happening to Seth and Martha. On here, one night, something did happen. After they'd both getting into bed, they'd both been asleep for some time, when Martha were wakened, wearing Seth getting out of bed. Thinking he happened to meet Neatmare and were bound to walk in his sleep, she tried to grab hold on him. What's up? What's up? Where at you going? It's no, Seth, off asleep. I'm nobbut just getting up a minute. Leg thee down. And so Martha did. Then out got Seth onto the floor. But in a minute there was such a rumpus as you never heard. Seth set up biggest din that man ever made, and he jumped on all fours as if he put his feet on a red-hot oven plate. Martha was flayed to death. Should never been used to sleeping with anybody like that afore. What's up? What's matter? She yelled out. Whatever hast thou done? Marguerite! But poor Seth were bouncing about floor like a madman and shouting at top of his voice, I've done nought, he bawled out, but someone's bitten me great toe. Look sharp, Marguerite, it's right hold on me. I can feel it teething me toe. Martha was sewing out of bed, but as all it is, she couldn't find a mattress for her life. She couldn't find a mattress for her life. And of course, she was very scared. She thought that what had bitten Seth might bite her and all. However, she managed to find matches at last and Marguerite. And there were poor Seth, hopping up and down like a performing elephant, with a mousetrap attending his store. Of course, the explanation's simple. Martha had set trap day before to catch a mouse that she did under bed. She put trap just under bed edge on Seth's side, and of course, when he got out of bed, he happened to put his foot against trap, and it set it off, with his great toe in it, where the mouse ought to have been. But Seth got right nasty about it, 'cause Mousetrap had bitten his great toe, where nobody had thought. Of course he blamed poor Martha for it. Thou'd have had more sense than to put a mousetrap for a chap to put his great toe into it. But then women never had as much sense as to bait a mousetrap. Oh, haven't they, said Martha. Well, I'll set that trap all right, and it baited thee, where the women has as much sense as a man to bait a mousetrap. And she got back into bed, and Seth kept rubbing his toe and finished it and lamp out, and show bounced back into bed. Seth rubbed his great toe, but to put things